With the current season of Love is Blind that is fully underway and only a couple of days away from the reunion, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity for us to sit down and talk about the things that we can learn about relationships from this season and take and apply to our own lives so that we can enhance our own real life relationships. And to do that, I'm first going to be talking about the premise of Love is Blind and what I think about the whole sight unseen situation. And then we can move on to like the overarching lesson that I think every single couple of Love is Blind on season 6 has been able to showcase, and what we can learn from that so that we can apply that to our own lives and improve our own real life relationships. So, hi guys, if you don't know who I am, I'm Orlane. I'm a medical student in the UK, currently doing a master's in tissue engineering, and I'm obsessed with self-development, hence why I have this podcast and this YouTube channel. All of my relevant links, meaning my YouTube channel for singing, because I'm also a singer, my Instagram, as well as my podcast or my YouTube channel, depending on where you're listening to this, are all linked below in the show notes or in the description, so you can decide to dive into my universe a little bit more if you wish to do so. But for the people that do not know what Love is Blind is basically a reality TV show on Netflix with the whole premise that a group of men, it's usually a group of men and a group of women, will date each other sight unseen. Sight unseen just means that they don't see each other when they're dating. So they're dating in pods where there's a wall in between and they can just only talk to each other. And the whole premise of this is to strip back the physical attraction from dating and force people to like dive into the emotional connection and the emotional attraction to sort of like build relationships that are with stronger foundations, let's say. And this group of women and this group of men will be dating each other, meaning that there's a lot of the times there's drama that arises from the fact that you can have a few women that are interested in the same guy or a few guys that are interested in the same woman. And so then that kind of creates tensions. The tensions are coming from the fact that if a couple likes each other well enough, the whole purpose of this dating in the pods, so sight unseen, is that they will get affianced, they will get engaged. So if a couple likes each other well enough, one of them will get down on a knee and be like, hey, will you marry me? And they do all of this without seeing each other. Then once they are affianced, they get the big reveal. They get to see what their person looks like. And so then they get to see each other. They get to like be like, oh my God, like I'm so in love with you. And now like you, this is what you look like, kind of put the voice to the face. And then once they do that, they separate again and then they go to their honeymoon. And on the honeymoon, there's all of the couples from the show that decided to get engaged. So at this point, everybody can get to see what everybody else looks like. So all of the girls get to see what all of the other guys that they dated, or the guys that got engaged that they dated, what they look like, and the same for the guys. So sometimes at this point, some sort of tensions rise up, because if you imagine you have a group of people that all dated each other, they all had sometimes strong connections with 2 or 3 people, and then now they made a decision of who they want to get married to, without seeing what they looked like, and then they get to see how everybody else looks like, and then they can, it sounds bad, but can kind of like compare and contrast and be like, oh my God, like I chose the wrong person, like I'm more attracted to this other person kind of thing. So that's a lot of times where a lot of the tensions come from. And then once they've finished with their honeymoon, if they make it through, because some couples don't, some couples just separate at the honeymoon because they realize that it's not going to work out, then they move in together, they go back to where they live, to their city, and they move in together, and they have to see if they're able to mesh their lives and figure out if they can work to get married in 4 weeks. So the whole premise of the show is that you go from dating to married within 6 weeks. And so it's very intense, I would say. And it's, I think, a very unique new show. It's not that new anymore, but it's very unique perspective on the whole reality TV scene. And my personal opinions on the premise of the show, meaning that you're dating sight unseen without seeing the other person, I think that the idea behind it is very good, because I feel like we are in a society right now where looks feel like they are the most important thing, and that if somebody does not look how you want them to look, you're just going to be like, well, I'm not immediately physically attracted to them. And because I'm not immediately physically attracted to them, I'm not even going to give them a chance at all. I'm not even going to get to know who they are. I'm not going to even try to see and dig a little bit deeper as to who they are on the inside. No, you don't, on the outside, you don't look like what I would be immediately physically attracted to. So I'm going to like put you to the side and move on to somebody that I am attracted to. And the problem with that is a lot of the times when we kind of only date within our type, we get a lot more nervous when we are around people that we find so attractive. And it means that like a lot of the times we then are like, oh my God, like I like them so much. I find them so attractive. So now I will kind of contort myself and not say my full truth because I want them so badly to like them, because I find that you are so attractive and I want you to like me so much. Whereas when you're starting to date someone that you find attractive enough, but not like, you're not like, oh my God, this is the most attractive person that I've seen, you are able to also be a little bit more honest and a little bit more like down to earth because you're not so focused and so busy on being like, this is the most gorgeous person that I've seen and I want them to like me. And whereas if you're with someone that you find attractive, but you're not like, oh my life, like this is the most attractive person I've seen in forever, you're more likely to be a lot more yourself, and you're more likely to be able to be rooted and have strong foundations as to what you're looking for in a relationship, because you're not distracted by the whole physical attractive thing. That's the first thing that I think that is good with Love is Blind, is because it forces you to make connections and learn about other humans in a way that you probably wouldn't in real life, because you would just ditch the people because they don't look like what you're usually attracted to. That's the first thing that I would say. That is a very good thing with Love is Blind. My other thing that I think is a little bit difficult with this whole premise is that I feel like it makes it seem like physical attraction is not important at all. And physical attraction can grow. You know how, like, I'm sure everybody has those sort of stories where, like, you meet someone, you don't find them super attractive, really. You're like, you're a good enough looking person, but I'm not like, wow, you're the most attractive person. But you get to know them a bit more and you get to dive deeper into who they are. And immediately you're like, wow, this is actually a very, very attractive person, because you've also started to build the emotional connection, and emotional attraction has risen. And so therefore the physical attraction is also rising with it, right? Physical attraction is something that like is fluid. The same way that you can see somebody that you find super, super attractive, and then they open their mouth and they say something really, really like that you find so not attractive, and immediately you're like, I don't find you attractive anymore, right? Because physical and emotional attraction are so linked together. And I think that the emotional connection, the emotional attraction is a lot stronger. It's what keeps relationships going, I think, for a long time, because physical attraction will fade and physical attraction is a lot more volatile. But at the same time, I do think that it's important to mention that physical attraction is important. Having a physical attraction that is there is really important. And you can see it on the show when you have couples that have a very strong emotional connection, but then they see each other and there's no physical attraction whatsoever. First of all, when they see each other, it's really, really, really awkward. But the second thing, a lot of the times these couples don't make it through, because at the end of the day, if you have a very strong emotional connection without any physical connection whatsoever, you're not lovers. You're probably just really, 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 really good friends. And so I think the way that I kind of look at it and think about it is the fact that, like, it's almost one of those things for me that with physical attraction, if it's the only thing you have, the relationship will not grow. The relationship will not sustain itself. It's not going to be a life story. But if you're missing all of the physical attraction, I mean, like, there's none at all, you just don't find each other attractive in that way at all, then you're detracting a huge bit of the relationship. Because then it's very difficult, if you don't find somebody attractive physically, to then engage in like relationship activities, we'll call them like that, and guess you can understand what I mean. You know what I mean? And you can see that on the show. You can see it so clearly when couples just don't find each other attractive physically. They try so hard. They try so hard to like make it work and be like, no, we have a really, really strong emotional connection. We'll make it work. But every single time it does not work. The couples in Love is Blind that I've seen that have made it through and have sustained the test of time are couples that were able to build a super strong emotional connection within the pods without seeing each other. And then they saw each other and they were immediately like, wow, I'm the luckiest woman alive, or wow, I'm the luckiest man alive. And then they were able to like mesh almost immediately the emotional connection and the physical connection, because they go hand in hand. And the other thing that I like to think about is that I would never want to be in a relationship with someone that does not find me physically attractive. And I think sometimes if you look at it that way, you kind of realize that, yeah, physical attraction has a part to play within relationships. We can't just erase it fully. Is this the most important part in relationships? I don't think so. I think it's an important part, but it's not the most important part. And I also think that society and the way we do relationships now has pushed us and made us believe that physical attraction is the most important thing when it isn't. And so I do think that that's why Love is Blind, the premise of it is really good, because it's kind of going the whole other way and trying to get people within the heart rather than just looking through the eyes. Oh, no, you're not attractive. No, I'm not going to give you a chance. No. Okay, you're the one that I'm exactly my type, so I'm going to give you a chance and talk to you. I don't think that that's how it should work. So that's my whole opinion first on the premise, and really do let me know what you think about it, because I feel like I don't necessarily think that it's like super controversial, my opinion on it, but I feel like it would be good to have a conversation and see what other people think about the whole premise of Love is Blind. Now let's move on to what we can actually learn from the season of Love is Blind. So the season of Love is Blind, in my opinion, was a bit of a an explosion. It was a lot of drama. There was 5 couples that made it, that got engaged, but only 2 of them got to the altar. And that's wild. So it means that 3 couples didn't make it. And my lesson that I want to share with you is the fact that relationships are a mirror. You will only attract what you are already. And I know that I said that actually in one of my videos from last year when I was still in a relationship, and I was talking about like the things that I've learned about love through being in a relationship. And I said this thing about, like relationships are a mirror and you will attract what you are, and relationships will show you, reflect back at you in a really difficult way sometimes, the things that you still need to work on within yourself. And so a lot of the times you kind of we sell relations as like the most beautiful thing, which they are, but they are also a whole different depth, a whole different level of work that we have to do within our own selves, because being in such intimate connection with someone is forcing us. It's putting a mirror just in front of our face. Like you can't not see it anymore because this person is in your life in an intimate way. It's putting something in front of your face that tells you, with super capital letters, telling you this is what you need to work on. This is where you're getting triggered. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's really bringing to the surface certain things that you have to work on. And so you can see it so clearly in this like Love is Blind season, how like the couples that got together, it made sense that they got together because they attracted who they are a lot of the times at their core. So for example, take Clay and AD. AD has said from the beginning that she is someone that is very, very willing to fix someone. So she will work on potential. She will meet someone and be like, okay, here are your issues. I've noticed your issues. I can help you fix them. And this is kind of the energy that she's coming with. Clay, on the other hand, was someone that was like, you know what? I'm realizing that I have a lot of work to do. I want to go to therapy. I want to get better. I want to improve myself. I want to learn about myself. And so then, do you see how it makes sense that AD, that is like, I want to fix someone. I'm a fix-a-hoe. I'm a support someone. I'm a help someone. I'm going to build someone's potential. Will get with somebody that's like, well, I'm ready to be fixed. I'm ready to be supported. I want to go to therapy. I want to learn about my problems. I want to learn about my traumas. And so obviously they're going to work because she wants to support and he wants to be fixed. She wants to fix and he wants to be fixed. And so obviously they're going to work together. And then on the other hand, take the example of Johnny and Amy. Amy literally feels, and I've noticed from the show, that she seems like quite spiritual, quite in touch with herself. She had her crystals, she had a moon tattoo. She was talking about like signs in the universe and all of that. And then you take Johnny, that seemed to also be just like a really down-to-earth, kind man that had done the work already, and that he was ready to settle down. And Amy was like, well, I'm ready to find my husband. And so they met each other, and they were both on the same level. And the whole season had no issues really, apart from the birth control situation, but it had no real issues that put their relationship in jeopardy, because they attracted who they already were. They were both ready for this level of commitment. And then when that level of commitment came to them, they were like, well, we're able to fully accept this with open arms and open hands because we both are ready for this thing. This thing feels very, very right to us. On the other hand, take, for example, Chelsea and Jimmy. There was no way, really, that Chelsea and Jimmy were going to work correctly, even from the beginning, because Chelsea was relatively insecure. I might even say quite deeply insecure on the show. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe that's just the way they portrayed her on the show, but at least it came across that she was quite insecure. She said multiple times, I will only tell to one of them that I love them only if they tell it to me. I will choose the person that chooses me. So rather than being like, hey, I'm the queen, I get to decide who I want to be with, and you don't even have to be a queen for that, just I get to be a human being, a person, and I get to choose who I want to spend my life with. This is about marriage. She was like, I'm going to choose the person that chooses me because I want to feel chosen. And obviously there's a good thing about wanting to feel chosen, but you also have to be able to choose. You can't just let yourself free flow, because then you're not making a choice. You're not feeling empowered in your decision and knowing that this is the right thing for you. And then you take, on the other hand, Jimmy, that a lot of the times was quite useless in the way, at least again, in the way that he was portrayed. I don't know these people personally, right? But in the way that it was portrayed on the show, felt like he was a little bit clueless, a little bit lost at times, it felt, at least in the pods a little bit. And then he just proposed to her and she's like, well, cool, I'm going to be with him. And so how can you really think that Chelsea, that was like, I'm just going to let somebody choose me and I'm going to say yes to the person that proposes to me first? Because clearly if Trevor would have proposed first, she would have gone with Trevor. How can you say that she is ready for marriage? And at the same time, Jimmy didn't have like real reasons as to why he loved Chelsea. He would just always say, I love you, Chelsea. Like, I love you. Like, he didn't have like a real, like, they didn't seem to have that strong of an emotional connection. Because I think when you look at it, she was so deeply insecure that she probably was not sharing that much about her life anyways, at least from the pods, again, from what we can see. And Jimmy was also just like, well, I don't really have anything to say anyways. So it was kind of a weird tug of war. And that kind of leads me to my next point. That is something that like Esther Perel, which is like a kind of, I think she's a relationship therapist, says a lot of the times, is that relationships are kind of like the figure eight. When you enter in a relationship, your actions will dictate and affect the actions of the other. If you change your actions, your partner that is linked to you will inevitably eventually change their own actions as well. For example, you come home and you're, let's say, a bit more anxiously attached and your partner is a bit more avoidant, and your partner is on this computer just working, and you arrive like, hey babes, and he's just like working. And he's just like, oh, hi, and doesn't like say anything. You're, as the anxious person, are going to probably try and pry and be like, hey, like, how was your day? How did you do this? Like, how was your day? And he's just here being like, I do not want to talk to you right now. I'm being avoidant. Like, I want my own space. I just came home. Like, I need to finish these emails, right? And so you kind of get into this weird loop where she's or him, like the anxious person, is going to be trying to pry at you. The avoidant person is not going to respond in the way that the anxious person requires to be responded to. And so you're in this weird loop that just feeds off of itself. But if you have one person that decides to do something completely differently, let's say, same scenario, comes home, anxious person comes home, hi babe, and then just moves on with their life, does not say anything else, just goes into the kitchen, goes and get ready, has a shower, whatever, and does that multiple times, the anxious person will be like, hey, like, why are they not talking to me? Why are they not like wanting to spend time with me? What's wrong? And then they'll probably be like, oh, let me go check on them, right? Same situation. Like the anxious person comes in, hey babes, like, whatever. And then the avoidant person's like, oh, hey, and actually responds. And it's like, oh, like, how was your day? Has a little bit of like a connection. Maybe they kiss a little. And then they're like, hey, like, I'm actually writing those emails. Can you give me like 20 to 30 minutes? And then I'll be with you. The moment that one person changes their behavior, the other person's behavior will also change. And so you can see how a lot of these couples, and I think that the most like drastic example was with Chelsea and Jimmy, how some of these couples are in this sort of like the figure eight loop, and it's kind of like it's just feeding off of itself and it's not working. Nobody is changing something to actually enhance and improve this relationship. So when you take Chelsea and Jimmy, when they were like living in the real world, even like within their honeymoon, they had so many instances. It was repeated after repeat. It was all the time. They had instances where she was like, Jimmy, do you love me? Jimmy, do you love me? But you never say you love me. Jimmy, like, you never kiss me. Like, you only kiss me twice. And he's like, no, like, I kissed you this morning in the kitchen. And like, Chelsea, like, I love you. Like, I love you, Chelsea. Like, Chelsea, you're the best. Like, but can you see how if she's going to continue coming at you and being like, hey, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And you only respond, yes, I love you, but you're not doing anything to make her feel loved. Literally, like, at least from what they showed, Jimmy has not done anything to make Chelsea feel loved in any way or feel special. When she asked him, what was the first thing you noticed about me when you saw me like in real life? He said, your big, square, white teeth. How do you want to say that to a woman that is already like anxious about the way that she looks probably? Say and reassure your like girlfriend or your fiance, no babes, like, I love you. I love the way you look. I am so attracted to you because you have big white square teeth. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Or like when she's like, babes, like, you haven't kissed me today. And he's like, no, but you're being clingy. And he's kissed her twice. Like, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of the times I've seen people being like, oh, Chelsea is like always asking him to love him and being like, do you love me? Do you love me? And yes, he says, I love you, Chelsea. Yes, he says it a lot, like, I love you, Chelsea, or whatever. But he doesn't say it with his actions. He just says it in like the most monotonous voice. How do you want to feel loved if your man is going to tell you, I love you, and doesn't do anything? This man's not buying her flowers. He's not like making her feel special in any type of way, at least from what we can see. Again, like, maybe that's just the way they portrayed the show, but I'm just using this for like kind of educational purposes. So you see how they were in this weird loop, this weird 8 loop where they were both on like opposite ends of a spectrum and feeding off of the other behavior. So she was like prying, like, you don't love me, you don't love me, you don't love me. And he was like, no, I love you, I love you, I love you, without realizing that the problem is deeper. The problem is not, do you love me or do you not? Is if you do love me and you feel that within yourself, you are not making me feel loved. So what are we going to do about that? How are we going to change the way that we do and operate in our relationship so that I can feel the love that you feel within you? Because right now, you might be overflowing in love within yourself. I don't feel any of it. Hence why I'm going to come at you and pry at you and be like, do you love me? Like, you don't love me. You don't do this. You don't do that. That was also probably why she was saying like Amy and Johnny are the strongest couple, because she didn't feel like she had that level of connection of these two people that were both ready to be in a real committed relationship. And so the biggest thing that we can learn from this whole thing is that we feed off of each other. And let's say, for example, another example with Laura and what was the name of the other one? Jeramey. Obviously, they got together in the pods, but then they also were in this weird figure 8, at least again from what we could see on the show, where she was, I would say, portrayed at least to be relatively mean and relatively like controlling and relatively and attaching to the smallest things, which I was like, that is not helpful. To tell your fiance all the time, I don't like your Hawaiian shirts, they look bad, like why, like it's honestly gives me the ick, it's disgusting. How do you want the person that you're with to feel comfortable and feel loved and feel seen and feel heard and feel special if every single time you tell them that the way that they dress once in a while with their Hawaiian shirts gives you the ick and it's just disgusting, and why would you do that? Just stop wearing this, it's disgusting. Obviously, if you do that, the other person on the other end is not going to feel very seen, not going to feel very heard, not going to feel very loved if you're always criticizing something about them. And so either that person on the other end will try to change themselves and try to please you, which obviously is not a good recipe for a strong relationship, which I don't think Jeramey really did necessarily to any degree, or that person will probably just leave. And that is also what happened. Because he had a strong relationship with Sarah Ann, I think that was what she was called, in the pods as well, and he was kind of tossing it up between Laura and Sarah Ann. When he realized, okay, Laura is clearly not what I need, she's clearly not giving me what I want, and I still have this deep connection with Sarah Ann that also clearly has left the door open by like texting. She texted him being like, hey, like, by the way, I really loved our connection in the pods. Like, if you still want to see each other, like, I'm here, bestie, knowing that he was engaged with Laura, which is a bit of a bad move, let's be honest. And so basically, he left. He was like, well, I still have Sarah Ann there, and I don't feel seen, heard, loved, and appreciated with Laura, because she's doing all of these things and she's being aggressive and being mean and being like stern and not very fun, that he's like, well, I know that Sarah Ann is not like that because I had this connection with her, so might as well try with somebody else, which sounds so horrible. But this is how a lot of the times people work. This is a lot of like the human connection that happens, is that if you're in this weird figure 8 with somebody that's like stern and mean and sometimes aggressive and doesn't think you feel heard and doesn't make you feel seen and is just not very fun with you, you're not going to want to spend that much time with them. You're going to be like, yeah, we have an emotional connection and we vibe and we are aligned on a few things, but I don't feel heard and seen and appreciated and loved. I don't feel like I can be my full self with you. And so I will either force myself to change for you, or I'm going to leave. And obviously there's good ways to leave. There's appropriate, respectful ways to leave. And Jeramey did not do that. That was completely disrespectful, the way that him and Sarah Ann handled the whole situation, in my opinion. But at the same time, I knew that Laura and Jeramey were not going to make it, even before there was this whole situation with Sarah Ann, because I was like, Jeramey seems like a fun, like lively guy that just wants to have fun and just jump in the pool with his clothes on and just be like, I'm just vibing and having fun. And she seemed a little bit closed off and a little bit like, oh, why are you doing this? You look like a child. Like, why are you like acting like this? Like, why are you having Hawaiian? You know what I mean? So I could see it even from the beginning of their honeymoon. I was like, this is not going to work really, because she is a little bit too closed and not the level of fun and like freedom that he is like. And so he's not going to feel heard really in this relationship. And then obviously it completely dwindled. And so basically the whole thing that I want to tell you with this podcast is the fact that you will attract who you are. And so if you are looking for a very specific type of relationship, for you to call that into your life, you have to look at your own life and see, Are you the person that the other person on the other end would want to be with? You have to be like, if I'm looking for all of these attributes, all of these qualities in a relationship, am I ready for that? And am I already embodying these qualities in my own life, in my own single life? Because you will not get the relationship that you want, you will not get the marriage that you want if you within yourself, one, are not ready for it, and two, are not embodying those qualities already on your own before the relationship comes in. And you can see it so clearly with all of these couples that made it really close to marriage and then it dwindled down because they attracted from their wounds. Their wounds were not fixed, quote unquote, and were not healed. And so they attracted somebody that had also unhealed wounds, meaning that then they got together and then realized, hey, we're in a relationship that is just wounded. We're not coming from a place of health. Obviously, you cannot be fully healed. You're never going to be fully healed for a relationship, but there's certain core wounds that you have to have started to work on and have to have started to make a big advancement on them to be able to attract the relationship that you do want in your life. And personally, that's what I noticed within my own first relationship, and that I attracted what I was. And I can't just blame the other person. There's also a lot of things that I had still to work on that I hadn't worked on. And that's why that was the partner that I was with, right? And so this is, I think, the most beautiful lessons that I think I can share with you from this Love is Blind season is that you will attract who you are. And that's both the bad news and the good news. It's the bad news because if you are fully unhealed and you're walking around with all of your trauma and you haven't done any work on it, you're unaware of it, you're going to be attracting, again, relationships after relationships after relationships that are going to fail and break you and hurt you. So that's the bad news. But the good news is that you will attract who you are. So if you work on yourself, you observe those traumas, you go to therapy, you do the work, you read the books, you do all of these things, and you invest in yourself, you will attract the person that has also gone to therapy, done the work, invested in themselves, and then you can be in a relationship with someone that is a lot more healthy and that will work with you and that will help you continue your journey of healing, right? And that will support you through that. But you can't get that if you haven't yourself started your own journey. I like the quote that says a lot of the times there are certain things that you have to heal on your own. You have to be single to heal certain different types of traumas. You have to be single to start some of the journeys within fixing certain things. But then there are certain things that you have to be with somebody else to complete that journey. So if, let's say, you've been hurt or you have a trauma that is linked to somebody else causing that to you, let's say your ex that did something really bad to you, and that's the trauma that was caused, the beginning of the healing process has to be with you and yourself. Why did you allow this to happen? How did this happen? Did you know that at the time that it was not good? Like all of these things, like the kind of healing of your own side of the story and starting the healing journey on your own, in your own space. But then it's only when you're going to be with somebody that will not treat you that way, that will prove to you time and time again that they are not that person and that they will never treat you this way, that you can kind of almost close the loop and fully heal. So there's a level of healing that you cannot do on your own. And so you kind of have to, quote unquote, wait. But don't worry, you don't have to wait. The moment you're going to be in a relationship, that mirror will be put up to you and show you all of the other things that you still have to work on now that you're in within this relationship. And that's not to scare you. That's just like the nature of life. And if you actually just decompose relationships around you or your own relationships, you actually realize that that's a lot of the times what happens, even unconsciously. So I'm just putting words as to what happens already naturally. I'm not saying that like, oh, now you have to be aware of these things. They will happen fully naturally. But yeah, that was kind of the things that I wanted to share with you, is that the figure 8 thing, if you're in a relationship and things are not working the way you want to, try to see what your behavior is promoting in your partner. So, and try to see how you can alter your own behavior, because you're both linked in this figure 8. So if you alter your behavior, your partner will inevitably eventually alter their own behavior as well. And so realizing that like it's not always waiting for the other person to change. It's the only thing that you can change, the only thing that you have full control of is yourself. So if you want to see a difference in your relationship, you have to also take the accountability sometimes of being like, okay, what can I change right now that will affect and impact our relationship, rather than waiting for years, months for the other person to change, because they might not change, but if you change, they will inevitably change, because that 8 dynamic won't work anymore. Because if you interrupt it and you change it, you're inevitably changing the dynamic. And so then they have to rise to your level to stay within this relationship and create a new 8 dynamic, right? And so there's the 8 dynamic that I wanted to talk to you guys about today, as well as the you attract what you are and relationships are a mirror. And so I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you kind of liked my little like hot takes on Love is Blind and like using the Love is Blind examples to illustrate kind of like important relationship lessons, important relationship teachings that I think if you understand them and if you're able to start analyzing them within movies, within TV shows, within your own life, within your friend's life, you start to realize that you have so much more power than you thought you did to attract the partner that you do genuinely want in your life. And so you kind of move away from a place of victimhood and being like, oh, like I never met the man that I want. I never meet the person that is up to my level. And you start to realize that like there's a lot of things that you can do. There's a lot of things that you can put on your side of the court to attract the person that you want and that you need. But if you don't do that work, if you don't put all of the balls in your corner, you're less likely to meet the person that will really, really be for you. Or it might take a bit longer because eventually you will learn those lessons. But if you delay them for 10 years, you might delay meeting your person. But yeah, I really hope that this whole thing made sense. If it did, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video with other people that could benefit from it as well. If you're listening to it on a podcast, please like this podcast, subscribe to it, leave a review, rate it. I would really, really, really helps me. And again, the ripple effect is real. So if you enjoyed anything that I said, if you feel like there's somebody in your life that would really, really resonate and really, really enjoy what it is that I have to say, please send it their way, please, because one, it helps me, but also it helps your friend, it helps the person in your life. And I'm really here to help you. I'm really here to serve. That's my purpose right now in this life. So yeah, and please do leave a comment as to what your thoughts are on everything that I shared, what you thought about this Love is Blind season. If you think that like the way that like the lessons that I think we can take away from this season, if you think they're valid, if you agree, disagree with me, yeah, all of these conversations are important for all of us to grow collectively. So please feel free to let me know what you think in the comments, and I will go. I'll see you guys next week for a video that will be on YouTube. On Wednesdays are YouTube videos only, and on Sundays are the podcast episode that goes on YouTube and on all podcast platforms. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I really, 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 really hope that you have a really, really good end of your day, wherever you're listening to this, whenever you're listening to this. And yeah, I love you. Bye, guys.